Mitch Marner's gone. That's going to hurt. But how badly, and how do the Leafs try to adjust? To discuss that and more, let's bring in Mark Masters, who's on the golf course with the Toronto Maple Leafs today. Mark, how many times have you had to ask the question, how much are you going to miss Mitch? How are you going to fill in the role for Mitch? That must be a constant question right now for you.
Well, the only person I asked today was Daryl Sittler, who's here as a community ambassador for the team, of course. We spoke to him, and he said, yeah, it's going to be an adjustment for the returning players. And then we spoke to some of the new guys. That's been the tradition here for the Maple Leafs at this event over the years. So you can usually tell, who the new guys are, what position they play, what's been the point of emphasis during the offseason. And we spoke to 4 forwards here today. Last year was 3 defensemen and a goalie. So you can tell that the team certainly is trying and realizes it's going to be tough to replace Mitch Marner, and everything he's brought. But I'm sure there's going to be more questions along that line of the Marner and missing and how do you fill that void on Wednesday when the Leafs open camp. And we'll hear from Austin Matthews, John Tavares, and Morgan Riley.
All right, let's start looking ahead right now. So we got Matthews and Matthew Nyes on that top line. Marner's gone. At this point, it's looking like Matias Maccelli, which is somewhat of a drop-off. Marner had 75 assists last year. Maccelli's never had more than 57 points in an entire season. Is that the direction it looks like the Leafs are going right now on the top line?
I mean, we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Max Domi gets the first look in that Marner spot on the top line. He's had good chemistry with Austin Matthews in the past. A couple of years ago, of course, they caught fire together. Tyler Bertuzzi on the other wing there, down the stretch and into the playoffs. They played together in that series against the Boston Bruins a couple of years ago. So, wouldn't surprise me if Domi's there. Maccelli, though, wouldn't surprise me if he's getting a look somewhere in that top 6. He says he's found the traffic to be awful so far in Toronto, and we all said get used to it. But he also sees Toronto as a great place to be. He said no better place to have a bounce-back season. This is a guy who had 40 assists a couple years ago. It's a big difference from Utah to Toronto in terms of markets, but this is the place. If you can have a bounce-back, it changes everything in your career. So it sounds like he's got the right mindset, and I believe he will get a good chance early in training camp to prove himself and show he's ready for a bounce-back.
All right, speaking of bounce backs, seeing that whether or not you're ready, Austin Matthews, 2 years ago, 69 goals. Last year, 33. We know he was battling health issues for much of the season, and he missed some time. Okay, now, 2 questions. Do we anticipate him being 100% out of the gate? And how much of a drop-off is he going to experience without his best buddy, Mitch Marner, feeding him the puck?
You know what? I believe all signs are that he's healthy and he's feeling good. We were talking to some of the new guys I mentioned. I was asking them. They were getting questions. Who's impressing you during the skates? Michael Pezzetta pointed out Matthews. Man, up close, he looks really good. So we'll see. Obviously, he got hurt in training camp last year, so you want to see how things progress as things get revved up and get going for real. But all the signs, everything we've heard is that Matthews is back to feeling good, 100%, and ready and motivated for the season. Because I'm sure, like any top player, he's sitting there and hearing everyone talk about, what sort of impact is Marner's absence going to have on him? Well, I don't think production-wise it should have a big impact. I think this guy is established as a tremendous goal scorer. I mentioned already he's had a slate of games in the past where he's played without Marner and had success. So I'm expecting him to produce at a very high level, back to what we're used to from him, even without Mitch Marner on his wing. Now, will his line be, less effective defensively when you subtract a guy like Marner, who's obviously been nominated for the Selke Trophy? That's, possible. When you get a guy like maybe Max Domi or Matias Maccelli, there might be a drop-off there defensively. But I just think Matthews has shown that he is such an elite goal scorer. I expect his production to be right where you would expect it to be before what we saw last year with the injury.
Leafs top prospect who's hasn't played for the Toronto Maple Leafs on a regular basis, obviously, Easton Cowan. So much is said about him at this time of year. Is this year he breaks the roster and makes it in? The answer so far has been no. Is the door open for him? Is he ready to make that jump into the NHL this year?
I don't think the door is open, but I think that there's an opportunity for him to kind of kick it down if he has a tremendous camp. I just mentioned that we spoke to 4 new forwards today. It's not like Marner left and that hole just remained, or Max Pacioretty didn't come back and Pontus Holmberg went down to Tampa. There's been new guys brought in here, so Cowan will certainly have to earn it. He looked fine over the weekend in the prospect showdown game he got into with the Leafs rookies as part of rookie camp. He seems like he's in a good place based on the conversation and the interview I had with him last week. Says he's got no worries at all. He's not putting too much pressure on himself. He's just going to go out there and try and be himself during this camp. And yeah, it's going to take a lot as a youngster, as a guy who can start in the American Hockey League this year, doesn't have to clear waivers or anything. He'll have to clearly outplay a veteran, but I wouldn't put it past him, Gino, is what I would say. He's got the motor and the skill. He's shown that in the past, that he likes to prove people wrong. So I wouldn't put it past him, but I wouldn't say there's just a job waiting for him either, Gino.
As you mentioned, Mark, camp opens up on Wednesday, and then 3 weeks from then, the Leafs open up the regular season at home against the Montreal Canadiens. Enjoy the golf course, Mark. You're going to be real busy very soon.